Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the latest Banyard Solutions ePermits webinar, this one entitled Work-Related Stress, What About You? The webinar is being recorded, so for everybody that has registered for the webinar, you will be sent a link so that you can download and look at it again and hear it again later. If you're unfortunately not able to attend, you'll still be able to take the benefits of the webinar by downloading it when you receive the link. So thank you very much again for everyone that has joined us, and let's move on then with the webinar, Work-Related Stress, What About You? This is going to be slightly different to our normal webinars. My colleague Neil Hartley at Banyard Solutions, who's actually on the call, so if anybody wants to pose questions, you can actually get to him directly. Over the last few weeks, he's been posing a number of issues on topics on our Insights web pages. They've generated a lot of interest. As such, we thought we'd try something different this month and in our webinar series and pose the questions and detail some of the research that's led Neil to his suggestions and conclusions in the posts. Proof that this is a topic of interest to so many people is actually evident in the fact the webinar has seen the largest registration to date of all the webinars that we've run. So today, we're going over these topics and hopefully generating some interesting discussion points between us. If you have any questions or comments or any anecdotal contributions, there's a little hand icon which you can click, or you can type into the questions box and I'll be alerted, and then we can unmute you and you can join in the discussion. Alternatively, it'd be great if you could provide feedback, comments and anecdotes to Neil, as we can use this to further fuel the Insights post series. If you want your comments to be anonymous, just say so in your email. We won't attribute comments to any person or company. Now, in this webinar, we're not going to be referring to ePermits nor showing the system. It's purely going to go over the fascinating research that Neil has done, and we'd be interested in any conclusions you may have. So please feel free to jump in at any time. The research started off with a very simple question. Are employees really safer than contractors? Fatality in the UK has been fairly consistent, apart from in the waste and recycling sector, where effectively they've doubled this year compared to the average over the last 5 years. Why, we don't know, but I'm sure Neil will be looking at this as part of his future research program. However, how do these figures break down with regard to the types of worker? It can be seen that the fatality stats show a significantly higher proportion of fatalities for self-employed and contractors compared to employees, almost double in fact. And these are the stats that the HSE like to use to show that employees are almost twice as safe as contractors in the workplace. Stats that create a sense of achievement and sometimes perhaps a sense of complacency. However, if you look in the previous ones, there was a large amount to do with agriculture. If we take the agriculture data out, we now find that employees actually have a 12.5% higher rate of fatalities than contractors. So you ask, why did we take out agriculture? Well, there was a couple of reasons. In this case, because of the exceedingly high number of casual and self-employed workers in the sector, where other sectors principally contract with companies rather than individuals, and these companies have to be compliant in health and safety policies and training and competency regimes. We also took it out that it's not a sector that consistently uses ePermits or any permits to work, and therefore is not really in our market, although going by the data, maybe it should be. Now, this result is surprising to say the least, and worrying at most. Are we really living in a world where the risk of someone internal who should have all the right training, all the right supervision, and all the knowledge about the operation of the business and the risks involved, why is that person more likely to have a fatal accident than someone who comes on site just occasionally? It looks like we are. If employees are likely to be involved in fatal events, and more involved in fatal events than contractors, then surely the same holds true for the number of accidents, incidents, and near misses that take place too. So we need to ask the question, why is this? Other research has been done which shows that it's a combination of beliefs and assumptions. 84% of health and safety professionals felt that employees take health and safety seriously. same group of people, 43% of them felt that contractors take health and safety seriously. However, these feelings don't match the statistics we've just seen. Contractors are managed carefully to follow process and procedure as they're perceived to be at higher risk, hence the feeling. Employees know the business and are left to make intuitive decisions on health and safety and not follow the same process and procedures, again, hence the feeling. And also, employees don't really want to get involved in form filling for stuff that they've done for years. So we pose a simple question. If deploying the processes and procedures for contractors makes them less likely to have an accident, shouldn't these same procedures and processes be used for employees? In 1931, a gentleman named H.W. Heinrich published a book called Industrial Accident Prevention, A Scientific Approach, in which he sought to show the correlation between near misses, non-serious, serious and fatal incidents. His conclusion was if you work to reduce near misses and non-serious incidents, then this will naturally result in the reduction of serious and, more importantly, the fatal incidents. Many people and organisations, including our own HSE, have distanced themselves from this triangular approach. It's not necessarily because it's incorrect, but rather the data is insufficient. Many people who criticise Heinrich's work question how he could have known the number of accidents that don't cause injuries when they're not consistently recorded. And we know today that there are many, many companies where near misses are not recorded because they're not even reported. Another gentleman, Sidney Dekker, said that companies should really only focus on the serious risks to the company and its workforce. That's great. So we can just take out the near-miss stats and show the more accurate correlation between incidents and actual injury or death. However, the fundamental principle of any health and safety strategy is to prevent these happening. And as such, near misses are a critical factor in identifying where potential risks exist. After all, the difference between a near miss and an incident is often only just pure luck. So what is the right approach? Do you follow Heinrich or do you follow Dekker? On Heinrich, do we focus on reducing reducing near misses and therefore reducing the number of incidents? This will require a consistent reporting of near misses and management acceptance that reporting is a good thing, leading to a safer environment for all to work in. Or do we follow Dekker? Do we focus on the serious risk to the business and workers and accept that workers will intuitively manage the lower risks? This is a more manageable process and separates out improvements to personal injury rates from improvements to process safety. There's an interesting case study on BP in one of Neil's blog posts, which you can read about how this activity was proved to be better than the Heinrich approach. In reality, though, the answer is both, and health and safety professionals are dedicated to doing both wherever possible. A good example of using a hybrid of both Heinrich's and Dekker's approach is CHEP, the global leader in pallet and container pooling solutions. They started to change the culture in its European business following the successful implementation of a strategy at its parent company called Brambles in Australia. This started by establishing a safety culture that went from the most senior executive in its European operations through to workers on the shop floor. The company first focused on accidents that resulted in time off work, which was Dekker approach. Once this was bedded in, it then moved to minor accidents and then on to near misses, the Heinrich approach. The results were impressive. Lost time was reduced from 30 times a year to 1. Near-miss incident reporting went from 0 to thousands a year because the company didn't record them previously. Now it's using them to learn and improve its processes. Absenteeism reduced up to 7% a year to 2%. Employee retention rates improved. People like working for companies that are safe. The company improved its productivity and quality and ended up with a saving in the region of hundreds of thousands of pounds. This, however, requires a cultural change, and the change to be driven from the highest levels of management. Not something that happens overnight, and not something that's easy to make happen either. So let's look at stress. Stress has been the biggest factor of concern to workers consistently for a number of years. And you see in the slide that over the last 2 years, it's risen to 70% of people rate stress as being a main hazard. Times get hard, budgets get cut, companies need to get their workers to work harder, sometimes longer, often for the same amount of money. Increasing human productivity, sweating our assets, optimizing the cost of doing business. All business consultancy speak for we're going to squeeze you harder. This pressure results in stress. For the health and safety professional, there is another huge contributor to their stress levels. Quite simply, decisions that they make or don't make can kill people. It sounds harsh, but that's the bottom line. Make a mistake, like letting an unscheduled contractor on site, or being distracted and forgetting to check an isolation has been done, and someone could die. The result is you spend longer hours making sure that everything is right, everything is safe, and that workers can go home safe and well at the end of a shift. Check, double check, triple check, and then check again. Are these long hours noticed by the board without a strategic focus on health and safety? As long as the days since last incident board keeps ticking over, everything's hunky-dory, and you're doing a grand job. So why would you need more resources? Why would you need more systems? Why would you need some budget? So how do these result in stress? This is where you guys come in. There are actually 3 business factors that influence the stress levels, particularly on a health and safety professional. Corporate governance, the business of taking a strategic view of health and safety, not losing it as an operational issue or a cost to the business. Continuous improvement of safety processes, business activity, promoting the reporting of all incidents, including near misses, so it can identify risks and work to implement solutions for a safer working environment. And workforce participation. The business mandating that everybody in the business is responsible for health and safety and has an active role to play. So why do these business factors influence stress? Corporate governance. If the business treats health and safety as an operational issue, then there is no real leadership from above and drive from board level. The buck stops with you, or to put it in another way, the brown stuff always flows downhill. Continuous improvement of safety processes. If the business shies away from emitting bad news, then you're under pressure to ensure the numbers meet expectations and maybe do what you instinctively believe should be done. Workforce participation. If the business is showing no real leadership, then employees will treat health and safety as a necessary evil, and you're stuck in the middle with no support from above and no input from below. Now, each of these potential failings are counterintuitive to you being able to do the most effective job in the best way to ensure everybody on site is safe. Pictorially then, the environment looks like this. There are three intersecting circles, one for corporate governance, one for continually improving safety processes, and one for workforce participation. The happy health and safety professional sits at the intersection of these three circles. Now, there's no doubt where the H&S team at CHEP sit, happy in the knowledge they've got the full support of the board on a corporate governance policy, the full participation of the workforce in helping the company continually improve their safety processes and reduce the number of incidents by identifying and reporting all the potential risks so they can actually minimize their impact on people and the business. If you want more information on these three areas of influence and how they contribute to reducing the incident rates and therefore the stress on health and safety professionals, please go to our Insights page and look at the post that Neil has placed there on these three separate subjects. Now, we see this all the time. From my perspective, I'm involved, obviously, as you know, in the sales for e-permits. Yes, I've got a stressful job, but if I don't make a sale, nobody's going to die. Now, even in my own sales process for e-permits, and previously for other health and safety management systems, I see the results of the imbalance in the three influences. My experience has shown me that successful sales of health and safety related software only come about in situations where, firstly, the client or the end client through an FM partner is in a highly regulated and compliant business. Banking and data centers are prime examples. The client needs to spend money to ensure the highest level of compliance. The second is the client has had an incident, been the subject of an HSE investigation or audit, and their business process has been found wanting. The client in this situation has to spend money to ensure they now meet compliance levels required. And the third level is the end client is a forward-thinking business with health and safety as a key part of its corporate governance policy. The client wants to spend money to ensure they continuously improve safety for all. Unfortunately, the number in the third bucket is very, very small. So I have a little anecdote that actually reinforces that finding that I've sort of put together over time. Very recently, I was showing ePermit to the head of health and safety of a potential client, and the following statements were made. It's excellent. I can see this makes planning work safer, process more compliant, far less chance of human error, and it'll save me time, hassle, and stress. Great. All the key benefits identified and understood. And the next statement was, I'm going to have to go upstairs to see if there would be any money available for something like this. That's a red flag. Oh dear. Money has obviously not been budgeted for solutions like this. H&S is seen as a cost base in this company. And then the final one was a real eye-opener comment. The ROI doesn't stack up. I may well save up to 3 hours a day using such a system, but I currently do a minimum 12-hour day and I only get paid for 8. I might benefit health-wise, but the company doesn't financially. In essence, any system that we purchase would be seen as a cost, not a saving. Oh dear, health and safety here is an operational issue and is not part of a strategic corporate governance vision. So given those points, it was very interesting for me at that stage to firstly know, A, there was no chance this company was ever going to buy a health and safety system. But it was interesting to understand that the health and safety people see the need, but have very little control over how it can be purchased because of the state of either corporate governance or any of the 3 areas of the triangle, of the intersecting circles that we saw there. So this person certainly wasn't sitting in that center zone of those 3 circles. So that's really put together there, just briefly in 20 minutes, the information that we have gleaned from the research that Neil has done. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand or indicate in the questions box, and we can take them and answer them straight away. If not, please feel free to send any feedback or anecdotes or contributions to the email address on the screen. That's neil.hartley@banyardsolutions.co.uk. We will, of course, redact all submissions, and they will be used to contribute into the next topic for an insights post, which is going to be not titled, but it will actually have real responses from real people in the real world. So, has anybody any questions? Okay, Neil has actually sent you his email address as well. You should have had it on your screen. If there are no questions, I thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. I hope you found the information that we've gleaned from the research of interest. Please do send any comments or any feedback to Neil or to myself. All that sort of information adds to the understanding that we have of what actually goes on in the real world and how that might end up helping us make ePermits a solution that other people will take on board. So without any questions, thank you very much indeed for your attendance. The webinar is recorded and will be made available to you. You'll get an email link to the recording so you can listen through it again, pass it on to any colleagues, and anybody that hasn't been fortunate enough to join us today and they registered will also get a chance to hear the webinar. So thank you very much indeed, everybody. Goodbye.